I agree with my colleagues. There's a broad consensus on a range of issues, and I appreciate the discussion. As we've discussed extensively today, one of the big challenges of this rise of dangerous disinformation is that it denies us a basic set of shared facts to enable informed debate, like what we are having here today. And it's absolutely vital that we take charge and that we address this. What we've seen is that countries whose interests are not aligned with ours, extremist organizations and others, have used online social media platforms to engage and to amplify extremist content and disinformation, from the COVID-19 pandemic to the January 6th insurrection, both of which we've talked about extensively today. We've seen that the real world cost of this unchecked spread of disinformation is in lives. And like my colleagues, I worry that the structure of many social media companies, including those we have before us today, prioritize engagement, including engagement with provocative or extremist content over responsible corporate citizenship. So one of my greatest concerns regarding how extremist content and disinformation is allowed to spread on your platforms is the lack of data transparency when it comes to independent analysis. Everyone has claimed they have an internal system, that it's about the systems, that you need good systems to remove and delete disinformation and extremist content, but we have no way to verify how effective those systems are. And that's a huge part of the challenge before us. I think we all would agree that we need data and information to make good policy and to write good legislation, which will be coming out of this committee. So that brings me to a follow-up on my colleague Ms. Rice's questions about data. As she mentioned, and it's my understanding that all three of your platforms chose to remove content that was posted regarding the Capitol insurrection on January 6th. And I think we can all understand some of the reasons for that, but as a result, it's unavailable to researchers and to Congress. So my question for each of you is, will you commit to sharing the removed content with Congress to inform our investigation of the events of January 6th and also of the issues before us today about how to respond to extremist and dangerous content online? And I'll start with Mr. Zuckerberg.
Thanks, Congresswoman. When we take down content that might be connected to a crime, I think we do, as a standard practice, try to maintain that so we can share it with law enforcement if necessary. And I'm sure our team can follow up to discuss that with you as well.
Sure, I appreciate that. And I understand that you have a legal obligation to cooperate with authorities and law enforcement in these cases. And I think that, what I'm talking about is also sharing it with us in Congress. And I appreciate your response there. Mr. Dorsey?
We would like to do this, actually. We've been thinking about a program for researchers to get access to actions that we had to take. But all of this is subject to local laws, of course.
Well, and that may be something that we can help craft here. So I think that, it is consistently something we've heard from researchers as well, is a real area of challenge in not having the data. So I appreciate that. And Mr. Pichai? Do you also agree?
Oh, Congresswoman, sorry, I was muted. We are working with law enforcement and happy to connect with your office. And, we cooperate as allowed by law while balancing the privacy of the people involved.
Well, thank you. So I appreciate all of your willingness to work with us and to assist Congress in addressing this attack on our Capitol and on our country. Another idea that I would like to touch base with you on in the time I have left, just over a minute, is the difference we see in how your platforms handle foreign extremist content versus domestic content. And by all accounts, your platforms do a better job of combating posts and information from foreign terrorist organizations or FTOs like ISIS or Al Qaeda, and others where the posts are automatically removed depending on keywords and phrases, et cetera. The FTOs are designated by the State Department through rigorous criteria to identify groups that wish to cause harm to Americans. Currently, there's no legal mechanism or definition for doing the same for domestic terror and hate groups. Would a federal standard for defining a domestic terror organization similar to FTOs help your platforms better track and remove harmful content from your sites? Mr. Zuckerberg?
Congresswoman, I'm not sure. I think in domestically, we do classify a number of white supremacist organizations and militias and conspiracy networks like QAnon as the same level of problematic as some of these other organizations that are able to take decisive action. I think where this ends up being more complicated is where
I
the
hate to cut you off,
content
but
is
I'm going to run
nuanced.
out of time. So your answer was, I'm not sure. Can I just get a quick yes or no from Mr. Dorsey and Mr. Pichai? And then we'll
Very
follow
quickly,
this.
because your time has expired.
Oh,
Just very quickly.
we need to evaluate it. We need to understand what that means.
Mr.
I
Pichai?
think as domestic agencies focus on it, I think we are happy to work and cooperate there.
Okay,
Well,
gentlemen,
thank you very
time
much,
has
Mr.
expired.
Chairman. I yield back.